Wank!
You give my arse an headache. You really do. I'm not talking to you, viewer, I'm talking to Uppercut Games, the ones who created Submerged. I don't understand how a developer with such pedigree and with a game with so much potential completely misses the ball. My mind is blown by the sheer, unfettered delusion that must have gone on during the development of this game. This is Submerged.
Submerged fails to put its best foot forward before you've even decided to purchase the game and continues to drag its heels throughout its runtime. Sold as a combat-free exploration game, I immediately thought walking sim, and the devs thought it was okay to sell £15 of bugger all. Being a walking sim isn't a terrible thing, and that can be backed up with my thoughts on several I reviewed previously, but telling me straight up that you don't have a feature gives a poor impression, especially if it's a feature I'd probably enjoy. Tetris doesn't need combat, nor does Myst, but they're okay not having it. This game though, it needs, well, help would be a good start. This game, which isn't a first-person rhythm RPG, follows a lass called Miku trying to rescue her brother Taku, who's been attacked in some way by an unnamed assailant. To do this, the young lady must traverse an unknown land and find supplies that slowly fix him up. Or maybe they don't. The game makes things quite unclear due to the repetition in its cutscenes. I didn't appreciate the story a great deal, but I love how well it's told. Normally in a walk-in simulator, exposition is told at you like you're on a tour of an art gallery, only it's someone else's problems you have to lend an ear to, rather than the intriguing history of wherever you are. In Submerged, you have to discover everything yourself, and the best part is none of it's spoken dialogue. Hell's bells, it's not even written, but drawn. These caveman-like doodles are found in the environment and when you find emergency supplies. One kind tells the story that leads you to this underwater city, another tells you how the world became flooded, and you have to play to restore your brother back to health and discover his fate. Saving Taku is as easy as it's said. You'll explore the flooded metropolis by boat, which is by far and large the best part of the game. Well, it's the only part that dares get your blood up just by being fast. The lack of speed in the rest of the game makes this part exciting and fresh, but it's hard to decide whether or not this is good. I mean, can the lack of features be excused if it makes one part of the game, and a big one at that, so good? In some games, sure. In this, I don't know. I personally feel it would be better with more. There's no point me asking this anyway until we've covered what else the game doesn't do. The rundown speedboat that isn't a go-kart can be upgraded by finding parts of others, increasing how long you can boost for. If you're only concerned with going from point A to B, it's hardly worth finding all the parts, but I personally like to zoom around and breathe in the art design. There's no races or dangers to escape, so the boat exists solely to taxi you, unless you want to wander and smell the roses, or whatever flowers grow in the fungal water world that is Omagummaland. It's just as good as name as any for this place, really. Oh, and don't bother driving out of the map, unless it's for the achievement, because you'll only get to experience Donkey Kong 64 and hit a repeating invisible wall. When you're not reliving the frustration of swimming in a platform game, you'll be climbing towers akin to a Warner Brothers or Ubisoft game, only without the threat of death and a short loading screen. You'll wish you were playing a Nintendo 64 game when you start navigating the exterior of old hotels and civil service buildings. Why? For starters, you spend all your time hugging walls, moving in one of 4 directions at a time and doing it with all the speed of a dead badger. On top of this, you'll be interacting with, what, 3 different ledges in total? Sticky out ones can be stood on, tiny ones are grabbed, and roses remind you where to go in this aquatic urban sludge. For a game so linear, it sure is easy to lose your sense of direction, and your goddamn mind. I thought walking sims were meant to calm you, not drive you up the bloody wall! And you do this for about 2 hours, opening the box at the end, which, without fail, has the quest item you need at that exact moment. When you've got it, you're brought to your brother and you start the next day at the starting point. And that's your £15 worth of game. But we're not done yet. You can bet your bollocks to a barn dance we're not done yet. If you've any optional collectibles left on a tower you've just retrieved a main quest item on, you'll need to go back from the start of the tower and do it all over again. When you've done, you have to climb back down again. You can't just throw yourself off into the deep blue sea. Oh, well, green and bits of yellow sea too. There's no jumping whatsoever because that'd be too tense. Prototype and Crackdown are total shit compared to this because of the absolute freedom and rewarding progression they offer. Oh wait, they're not! Now, I won't be an elitist and say there can only be one or the other, but this is one of the things Submerged could have done to have me replay it multiple times and do more with its level design. And I don't mean any of the shit Eisenhorn did either, I mean real control and real platforming. Now, does this need failure states? No. Hell, Falls wouldn't even have to send you to the world of fishies if devs thought that would evoke the slightest emotional response. Plus, it'd be a nice shortcut when I was done because there's no fast travel as far as I can tell. And there's another problem, but not really about fast travel. Travel in general. We've already established being on a boat is better than saving people, so I guess that's why lifeguards are paid to have their fun spoiled. I'm talking about the protagonist. You've got to admire a bottle when she not only climbs buildings for selfless reasons, but she does this without shoes. Maybe the only shoes that survived the floods were Crocs. Imagine having a PlayStation game on your feet. It sounds painful. Well, if it was Spyro, I wouldn't mind. I'd do anything for Spyro. I even sliced his name in my wrist with the manual just to appease the Amethyst Drake.
That's enough of that!
My point is, Miku needs shoes so she can stop wincing about and sprint because she's too slow. She can at least walk like she's submerged in treacle, but she can't swim. At all, not just in treacle. It's pointless having so much water if there's sod all you can do with it. Having said that, Bioshock didn't do too much with the water, but it did threaten to drown you. Considering the team behind this game consists of ex-Bioshock devs, I was sure they'd understand how many water japes you could get into. You just look at it, those badly animated rivers of mercury. At least the docile creatures are nice to look at and ride with, but the absence of interaction makes me yearn to play a deep-sea diving game. Once again, this wouldn't need to be inconvenient or difficult, it'd just be a nice change to climbing buildings covered in moss.
It's time we drank from the pools of... I don't know where I was going with that, so let's just have a look at the visuals and the soundtrack.
Submerged is a splendidly looking title showing off a world that makes global warming a pleasant thought. Its adorable art style is diminished by its graphical fidelity, with many a low-res texture to be found. The lighting also suffers from Unreal Engine 4 syndrome, probably due to it being made in Unreal Engine 4. I can't really fault the devs when, and I've said this many times now, it's the engine that's the problem, at least when it comes to graphics and a lot of games. The water is unjustifiably poor quality, it fails to ripple and wave like a game with emphasis on it should. The creatures don't so much as swim, but slide awkwardly and regularly clipping animations, making me wonder if I'd even want to go underneath the polluted wasteland. Uppercut games don't take long to win back my heart with their delightful soundtrack by Jeff Van Dyck, whose works include Alien Isolation, Hand of Fate, and the Need for Speed games. It helps turn the boredom into a lulling wander through this hell we're quickly turning our planet into.
Before we come up for air, I think it's time to give you my final thoughts.
As an exploration game and nothing else, Submerged doesn't allow you to explore a great deal. You can only climb certain buildings in a certain way, and the variety of places isn't rewarding enough to be just an exploration game. Shadow of the Colossus has 16 bosses, but the way they're defeated are clever and memorable. The towers in Submerged are just one grey immobile blur, everything done in slightly different ways and rewards you with the same cutscene, with a couple of changes which don't occur until the halfway point. But as a story, as a means of provoking wonder and joy and despair, Submerged is far more enjoyable. The toil Miku endures only reinforces this, but you may not want that to come at the cost of features and constant interaction. I enjoyed zooming around, soaking in the soundtrack and unique landmarks enough to uncover the truth about the city and the people things. I struggle to recommend this game at its full price given how it may not provide that amount of quality time, but with more platforming, more puzzles, more mystery and more questions to answer, I'd be all for it. If you like walking sims and other such combat-free story games, Submerged is worth picking up. If you're new to walking sims or want to get into games with less features, grab this in a sale and also try the Stanley Parable.
Until the next time, I'm Johnbonne, your #1 source for #2 games, actually bothering to make an outro this time. And if you'll excuse me, it's time I earn the favour of the Amethyst Drake by purifying myself in his flames. Ta-ta for now!